And with that, we press the big red button, and it's another Pi Day Friday. Happy Friday, everybody. And if you are so inclined, as am I, happy Good Friday. So, yeah, I know. It looks like I'm alone. I'm not. I don't see him posting a greeting, but hi, I'm Dave Rush. I am the senior instructor for Total Seminars, and it is Good Friday. We're not expecting a real high turnout as a result of that. So, I'm not going to do a really cool special presentation because doing it for 6 people is kind of a waste. I want to do it when we have 20 or 30 or 40 or 70 or whatever the usual numbers are. So I'm behind the big microphone today by myself. And by the way, make sure somebody lets me know that my mic is working. I tested it with Scott a few minutes ago, but it would be good to know if you can hear. So Scott is here. He's working the background. We have a 3-day weekend at Total Seminars. And as such, Scott has decided not only to do what he always does on weekends, whether they're 2 or 3 or 10 days, he's working on company. Thank you, Telewit. Thank you, Alan. But he's also up with and wrapped. There we go. Terrible word. He's wrapped up in honeydews. He generally has the house kind of to himself. The missus, I think, is out of town or something like that. And so he wants to have some nice things done for her when she gets back. So when I talk to him, he checks in with me on our Zoom session before we get started with these things. And he looked like an oil miner. I don't know if you know what an oil miner is. It's not a mineral miner or a coal miner or something like that. And it's not an oil driller. It's somebody who dunks down in a well full of oil and starts digging while he's in there. So he is just, what was the word he used? Grubby. But I think, depending on how the end of the session goes today, that, he might clean up a little bit and pop his head in. And there we go. He's punched in. I see him. Let's see, I got to slide over here. He slid in on the chat. So, hey, body counts rising. We might be able to do something kind of cool today. So it is Friday. It's the day after April Fool's Day. I hope you had a good April Fool's Day. I did. Some of you, if you hang out on the Discord channel, saw the press release, April Fool's oriented press release, ostensibly from CompTIA. I'm not sure that it actually came from them, but you get the idea. And if you haven't played on Discord, we'll get a link up for it later today, and you can do it. So let me do my usual intro notes here, things like that. I am David Rush. I am the senior instructor at Total Seminars. This is an Ask Me Anything. And since I am David Rush, it would be the David Rush Ask Me Anything, and Scott, because he's here. But David Rush Ask Me Anything comes up to be drama. So we call this thing drama or Pi Day Friday or Friday or whatever. It's kind of a fun. In addition to being the senior instructor, I wear a lot of other hats. I moderate a lot of the online instructional forums that we do. I do this every Friday. I help do a little research when Mike is doing his AMAs. And so this is my favorite part of the week. I work like crazy all week long. I work crazy hours in the evenings to get these shows ready to rock. And then, the hour before I start getting all giddy. I really love doing this stuff. I love talking with you guys, answering questions, showing you things. And it's just the highlight of my week every week. Oh, what other news real quick for intros? Sec Plus book is generally a thing of the past. It's out of Mike and Scott's hands. It's in the publisher's hands. They're printing it and they're getting it in the warehouses of Amazon and booksellers and us and things like that. So they will hit the streets here in veritable minutes. And as a result, since that's off their plate, you would think, they get to wipe their brow and take a bit of a rest. But there is no rest for the weary, nor for the wicked. I'll let you figure out which one those two are. They have been working diligently, and I've been helping a little bit on preparations for the new Network Plus N10008 book. And the first couple of phases have passed. So I think the other day they completed, in fact, it was last Friday, they completed the table of contents. And that means they now commence what is officially the writing phase. And there's a lot going on there. Sometimes we can use material from previous books. Sometimes there's new topics that Mike and or Scott or one of us has expertise in, and we can just write top of our head and check for, do fact checking on it. And sometimes, like this time, there are some very, very new concepts that we don't yet have expertise in. And so we're off in the wilderness researching and figuring out what we think CompTIA has in mind and what's going to go in the book. So that's where they're at right now. Let's see. So we get together every Friday. For those of us who are locked down, that goes up and that goes down, nation by nation, state by state. It's a moving target, to be sure. But if you don't have the opportunity to go out and study the way that you have in the pre-pandemic, pre-lockdown days, we get together to do this kind of thing. So we are fair game. I am fair game for just about any kind of question in the certification studies arena, ITF plus, A plus, Network plus, Security plus. I don't put a lot of emphasis on those things. If they're quick answers that I can provide for you relatively quick, then I'll do that. If I can't do that, I'm either going to push it off to one of Mike's AMAs or maybe one of my upcoming shows. But the best bet is if you can't get an answer out of me today on any of those topics, is to drop me a note. I'll give you some info on that in just a second. For what we are focused on here is using Raspberry Pi computers, and we use them as a learning tool to aid in our CompTIA-oriented studies and other studies. They're great for CCNA studies, and they're great for Microsoft studies. We make servers out of them and clients and traffic generators and what am I trying to think of? Wireshark gatherers and TCP dump gatherers and DNS servers, and the list goes on and on and on and on and on. And so that's kind of our focus. I try to use Raspis and show you how you might be able to use them to further your studies. I also like to do just Raspberry Pi projects because they're fun. Sometimes they're practical and sometimes they're just flat out cool. Today, kind of a mix of that. I'll show you that in a moment. So this is an AMA. Ask me questions. You can ask Scott questions too. He's here. He'll either write them down and get you an answer, or he'll give you a short answer that's quick and ready to go. But if that's not possible, you're shy, you're not watching this live in real time on Friday at 2 o'clock Central Time when we get together, then there are other ways to get in touch with us. This would be one of them. Share screen, click this. You can send me or Scott or even Mike Meyers himself an email. We all work at TotalSem.com. I'm Dave Rush, so I am Dave R at TotalSem.com. Scott Jernigan, our company co-author with Mike on many of his books, editor on all of the books that he and Mike does. Hey, look at that. Questions coming up already. Oh, God, I knew somebody would ask that one. I just threw it out. All right, I'll answer it. Excuse me. So Scott Jernigan, he's our one of our men of many hats, and I think just about one of the longest employees in the company. There's a few of them, but he's right up there, number 4 or so. And you can get him at Scott J with 2 T's at TotalSem.com. We game. The machine that I'm using right now cannot game, so all I can do is message, but you'll find me. It's always online and logged in as drushtx. Scott's Scarheart, and Mike, who's Michael M at TotalSem.com, is Senor Pepe, SENORPEPE, 2 words. If you would like to get in touch with any of us, send us an email, send us your questions. Man, I got things binging and buzzing and all kinds of goodies. All right, let's take a look at who's here and questions that may have come up. That's good. People didn't start logging in too early. Tulawit got in here 5 minutes prior. Daniel Micaiah, whom I've seen a lot lately on the Discord channel. Good to see you, Daniel. I always assumed Micaiah from the Discord channel was a first name or an avatar, a moniker. So cool. Andre de Goyert, good to see you. I saw your message in Discord today, and man, it totally dovetails with something that I'm going to do today. So definitely stick around. Okay. Who we got from Mr. Micaiah? What did I see? Yeah, Daniel Micaiah is in from Spain. So That's awesome. I speak Mexican Spanish in the local dialect, kind of sort of enough to find the restroom and order a cerveza. But I've been told by many people, Scott included, that the folks in Spain don't love or necessarily understand the Spanish that we speak down here near Mexico, and a switch to Castilian goes perhaps a longer way, huh? Alan Duggan is here. Andre de Guerra said him. Whoa, super scrolled. Goodness, I hate when that happens. I see there's a question coming up. It's got to be answered. Stand by. I'm just reading them all until we get there. My mic is working fine, says Andre. Thank you at 2:01. Reading questions. Grubby. But my hands are clean, says Scott. It's all relative. Hey, Brad Taylor. I'm sorry, that name, it makes me laugh just because of the character name and the gent who wound up in a little legal issue. I'm sure that's not you. Andrew Hutz. Hi-oh. Thank you, Ed McMahon. Hey-oh. SEC Plus book should be on shelves in a week or so. Man, that's awesome. Tarun, I have your definitive answer today. I will get to that in 10 or 12 minutes, give or take. And then you have a new question. Why PC graphics are considered superior to consoles? Because, look, I'm not a super gamer here, and I don't have a tremendous amount of experience in console gaming. So maybe some other folks here are going to be able to expand on my answer or totally say my answer is wrong. But I believe that the short version is, here comes a console. It is released to the public in 2019, and it has to meet a whole bunch of characteristics, including a particular price point and performance specifications, right? It's got to have enough storage to hold enough games and enough memory and enough CPU power and all that stuff. So they pick a graphics processor at the time that meets their criteria. And, you know, how long does an Xbox stay on market before the next generation comes out? How long does PlayStation stay on market before the next generation comes out? You can't upgrade components in there. Possible exception, maybe RAM, probably not. Maybe storage. That's a little more possible. I've actually done that in one a long time ago. Thank you. But the problem is, while that's sitting there in the hands of the consumer for 3 years, 4 years, look how much GPU development has gone on and become available to PC gamers and Mac gamers. So that's my take on it. It's simply because it's not expandable. It cannot be enhanced in the near future or the long-term future. The only way to get better graphics is to wait until the new Xbox or the new PS3 or the new Atari or Amiga, dating myself just a little bit there, comes out. Hello, Maven Feliciano. Andre, you have retracted your message. I hate it when I retract my message. Dan Mikhail, I pre-ordered the SEC Plus book already, and it says it will arrive on May 5th. Wow. I hope not. I hope it doesn't take that long. That sounds like something that they planned in a worst case scenario. And Scott agrees with me on my assessment on why PC video tends to be better, at least as it's newer. Andrew Hutz at 2:05. Dave, I want to make a small Pi cluster, not because I need the computing power now, but because it's cool. Should I make it with 4 gig or 8 gig? If you're doing it just to learn and you don't have any specific long-term plans, no sense throwing the extra $20 per unit at it. The Pi cluster that I have here sitting in front of me that we did, I did with 5 3B pluses, which have 1 gig. And I'm doing something with that. That's our project for today. So no, you don't need 8 for a cluster if you're doing it as a learning tool. Think of it this way. If you had a program that you were going to run, just one program on one machine, and it ran fine on a 2 gig machine or a 4 or an 8, whichever it runs fine on, And that's going to be what you want to run in your cluster, because it's going to have the same program in there. And you're not going to run multiple programs on a per unit basis when you're doing cluster computing. You tend to say this node is going to run this cooperative piece of the program, and that's all that it's going to do until or unless I'm done with my cluster programming and I want to just use that box for something else. So no, I don't think you need a high RAM value unit unless you are running some program that takes a massive amount of memory. Remember, every computer just runs the same program. The only difference is it runs different pieces of the same program. So it's not running 5 programs at once in it. Oh, 207, Majdi. Hello to everybody. Shukran to you, my Habibi. Let's go that way. Because I lived in the Middle East and speak several phrases of Middle Eastern languages. You, of course, probably live in Cleveland, Ohio. I got burned by that not long ago with another regular here. Oh, well. Andrew Hutz, 4 gigabyte gigs is cheaper. Yes, and therefore I can have more of them, which looks cooler. Yeah. Yeah, if it'll run fine on 4 gigs, run it fine on 4 gigs. If it run fine on 2 gigs, get the 2 gig version. Do y'all wear cowboy hats? I wear cowboy hats for occasions, not for daily purposes. I think that's generally true of most of the folks in the company. Mike doesn't wear his cowboy hat unless he's going out to do something cowboy oriented. I don't think I've ever seen Scott in a cowboy hat, though I have seen him in medieval garb many times. And on the topic, 209 of Pi clusters, how many would I need in the cluster to match the computing power of my Ryzen 5? Dozens. They're not high-powered processors in there. They're 4-core processors running at 1.8 to 2 gigahertz. And no, I mean, you just can't compare them. People try that all the time. How good is a Pi processor compared to an Intel this model or an AMD that model? They don't compare. That's why it's $35 and not $350. Hey, Elbow at 209, welcome. Good to see you, my friend. Hey, we're getting a good turnout. I'm going to do everything that I plan to do today. This is great. Thank you all for turning up. I always stick around, says Andre. You the man. Right. Spain Spanish is quite different, but with my Colombian, not they understand me pretty well. Okay. YouTube is odd. If Dave misses your question, right. Yeah. So if I miss a question, if I slide past it, Scott's usually good. He's watching them all and he's paying attention, very close attention to every word I say, just to haunt me afterwards, say, I can't believe you said this. But more importantly, he'll say, I can't believe you missed that. And he usually posted on the back channel. But if it's been a while and you can see where I'm at and how whether or not I missed your question, post it again. I'm happy to answer if I miss one. I have questions of how to use Boot Camp. So that's the bad news, Majdi, at 212. The last time I actually touched a Macintosh computer, physically got my hands on it, goodness gracious, was in the mid to late 80s. I'm going to say about 86. Got married in 86, moved to Jersey in 87, worked for this, doing this for a couple of years, about 89 or so, 88 or 89. And I have never used Boot Camp. Everything I know about it is what I've read about it and seen test questions. So if you got a question, throw it out by all means. I will copy and paste it and take it as a research project, and perhaps somebody here will be able to help you out. And for everybody else, Boot Camp is a process, a protocol on Mac computers that allows you to run Windows on it. Elbow, not on a night like this. My pleasure, Tarun. Let's see, Andre, I just told about my new used Switch. Nothing special. I have exactly the same thing and did almost exactly the same thing that you did. So that's what I'm going to talk about ever so briefly in today's news of the day. I was doing studies, says Tarun on 216, for search to get a job, but now that I've got one, I think I'm losing the grit. How do I get it back? It's especially hard when my job role is not directly related to the search objective. Okay, that's tough. Yeah, I understand that. This is where we say, I've got the will to accomplish something. If something comes along and says, I've been interrupted and I'm losing that will, you got to make a choice. Is the thing that came along a new direction for you that you would like to go and grow and expand in and has nothing to do with the search that you're following? In that case, absolutely nothing wrong with abandoning your own studies, in my humble opinion. However, if this is a stopgap, if this is something that leads back to what you were trying to study for, if this is a stopgap until you can pursue your true passion, which is involved in your studies, then you got to do it. And I think the way to do it is look at it like school. You're going to school every day. You get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, you travel to school at 7, you go to school till 3, and you got a cool after school job. That doesn't mean you get to stop your homework. That doesn't mean you get to stop preparing for college. You have to look at yourself and say, look, I used to spend this much time doing this kind of study. I'm not going to abandon it. And the longer that you do abandon it, the harder that it is to get back to it. So set yourself up a schedule and don't set it up for tomorrow. Set it up for today, right after this show. It says, I'm going to study that old material, maybe review it for 1 hour or 2 hours or whatever you used to study for. And then do it again tomorrow and do it 5 days a week. And what I do when I'm picking up old material that I've dropped is I'll go back and start with the last few chapters or whatever that really needs refreshing on. And then anything new, I hate to not do the new stuff, even if I'm not fresh on it. I'll study something new and then I'll drop it. I'll just ignore it for 2 days and I'll come back and hit it again, because in those 2 days, it's stewing and brewing in my mind and making a little bit more sense. And when I read it again, when I watch it again, when I write it down again, when I practice it again, it gets stronger, it makes more sense. And I'll do that 2 or 3 or 4 times until it makes sense. And at the same time, I'm not abandoning advancing through other material. And eventually everything will kind of come together and catch up. But, nose to the grindstone. Don't put it off till tomorrow. Do it today. Study some today, a reasonable amount. My humble opinion. Scott never wears cowboy hats. Native Californian. Yeah, he's a native Californian, so he wears a surfboard. 217, Daniel Mikhail. I have a Raspberry Pi 8 gig, downloaded Picharm on it, but it runs quite slow. I've seen it's a typical situation. I mean to change some settings. I have not played with Picharm yet. I do have it on my list of things to play with. I'm going to accelerate that list by putting you Rachar on my things to do this week. There it is, saved and ready to rock. And I will have more information for you next time we see one another. Okay, that's 219. Where are we at here? 223, a couple minutes behind. Let me get caught up on a couple other quickie things then, and we'll come back to that. All right, next thing's next. It is toward the end of the week, and as everybody here knows, we have special discounts that we offer only to the nice folks like you who join Mike and myself and Scott on these AMAs. And let me tell you about this week's special. Scott's going to put this up at call it 224, 225. So if you're watching this later, you can pause it. If you're watching it now, you can pause it or do it again tonight, or just look at that time mark about 224, 225 message from Scott. And you will be able to see the discount code and the bundle. So AMA special deal for this week, 50% off all CompTIA Total Tester bundles. That's practice tests, sims, and videos. You go to www.totalsem.com, go to the store, select your loot, and then when you check out, put in this code 032921. That was the date on Monday of this week, March 29th, of 2021, and you will get 50% off those total tester bundles. We get people who sometimes will try this and say, hey, the code didn't work. Well, that's because you tried to use it on products that aren't whatever we're specialing this week. So total tester bundles, get the discount. There's other stuff on there, and they are also already amazingly low priced. So, be looking at the real stuff there too. This thing is good through this Sunday, April 4th. No, I don't know what time of day it ends, probably midnight-ish. I don't know what time zone. Just do it before Sunday, and then you don't have to worry about it, right? And if you're a teacher, we've said this before, and you're conducting classes face-to-face, online, whatever the case may be, we've got stuff for you. Kathy Yale, our, God, I don't know what her title is. She is the senior sales manager. She's in charge of all things sales, and she does direct communication. She does a million other things. She helps you folks who win contests on Mike's AMAs get your winnings. Give her contact, kathyy at totalsem.com, kathyy at totalsem.com, and she is ready to throw open laundry baskets worth of help for you. Sorry, weird beep, and I never know if that's the back channel. No, okay. Nothing critical there. I want to get this one out of the way too while I'm at it. Yeah. We'll get done with the face-off screen stuff. So a while back, our good friend Jose Braden built a Discord channel focused on Mike's AMAs and these AMAs, and it's expanded a lot more. It's entitled the Unofficial Total Seminars Discord channel, and it is unofficial. We have no connection to it. We don't operate it. We're not even mods on it. Volume just exploded. I may have looked down. Sorry about that. Microphone is in place. All right. I think it's because I was looking down, which makes me speak straight into the microphone. Anyway, so Jose set this up, and we participate in it. I'm logged in 24 hours a day to the thing. If I hear it wonk, then there's a message for me or general or something like that. And lots of people there. We've got over a couple hundred people there now, all very smart, very good technicians, or very studious people who are becoming technicians and experts in Linux and CompTIA products and virtual machines, and the list goes on forever. And so if you would like to join us there, and we would certainly like you to join us there, you can find us at a code that changes every day. The message that Scott is putting up right now is different than the one that I have up. They both work. These are good for one day. It's an automatic invite. And if you don't get this thing in time, that's okay. Just Google Discord Unofficial Total Seminars, and you'll find your way there, and you can just click the link to ask to join, or click on whatever it is. I was not a Discord user before Jose set this up and said, well, I got to participate. And so I made myself a Discord account, and now I am so glad I did. I use it regularly. We try to get together with cameras and mics after Mike's AMAs and my AMAs today, and I will do that today. So if you want to talk to us directly, straight to face-to-face, in person, instead of send a message, you can do message and texting on Discord. But and if you want to come on without a camera, just come on with a speaker and listen to us, but works a heck of a lot better if we can see you and you can see us. I'll have a different shirt on. Okay, moving on. 220, Andrew Hutz. I lied. That's my 81 Chrome tabs. Yeah, I've seen one or two reports of specific software that makes things run more slowly on a Pi, but it's either really involved, complex software, like one that I've got on schedule for the next 2 weeks. But I haven't seen anything that just is slowed down because it makes the Pi slow and doesn't use an inordinate amount of resources. Oh man, I missed Crazy Homebody Girl. Hey, Crazy, good to see you. Get your boyfriend on here sometimes too, unless he's looking over your shoulder and having you type for him. Guys, What do we got? Don't forget to hit that like button. Thanks, Andre. You know what? I haven't even hit it yet since I don't run the thing. I can like it same as I do. I use Mike's account to set this up and make it spin, or he uses his account and lets me, however it goes. Yeah, so please like and subscribe. That helps other people find these episodes more easily. The more likes and subscribes that we get, the higher they wind up in the search results. Daniel's talking to Andre, super scrolling. Here it goes. There we go. Passing 221. So if I see an @ sign in there, that's somebody who's answered somebody else or talking to somebody else, and I don't even read it. So if there's something specifically that you need me to address, by all means, send one to me or send one without an @ sign in it. If you want to send a message to somebody else and you're new to this, you do @ and you start typing their name and it will appear in a list and you can just enter on it. I'm told, actually, I did this before. # works as well. Reading messages, 223, Andrew Hutz. Yeah, I mean, Picharm is fantastic. So is IntelliJ. I'm looking at my task manager with IntelliJ running, and it's only taking up 344 megs. You're running a task manager. Task manager is a Windows product. If you want to look at tasks in Linux, you're looking at top or htop or one of those derivatives. Okay, Scott posted the special of the week at time 2:24. Andre is Dutch, but he frequently wears a cowboy hat. Well, that's true, Andre, and you might want to tell people why you wear a cowboy hat. We know why. And Andre is always on the post-drama Discord sessions. So come on, join us afterward, and we'll see if we can convince him to wear his hat. I do have cowboy hats upstairs, kind of, sort of. I don't have a good one. I've never been able to force myself to just expend the money necessary to buy a good cowboy hat. Good ones can run many hundreds to thousands of dollars. Use code soon. It's blowing in the wind. That's like a great double reference. Nobody will get that. Because everybody thinks Peter, Paul, and Mary. By the way, my kid likes the Dylan version of it better than the Peter, Paul, and Mary. And that's just twisted. It's a great song, but PPM does it much better than Paul does, than Bob does. All right. I'm interested. I'm partial to JetBrains IDEs because that's what I started with. Okay. Goodness, Scott retracted a message. Tarun Chandra, that's such good advice. Good luck. That sounds smart. Yeah, a little bit at a time. Elbow talks to Tullowit. Nice Dylan joke. Everybody's on it. Yeah, Scott will get that to be sure. I see. Happy birthday, Obi-Wan, posthumously, and the Mando. Daniel's talking to Andre, unofficial total. Scott's got the link posted at 2:28 for the unofficial Total Sim Discord channel. Click on that. Join up. Am I almost caught up? 33. Yeah. All right. I'll finish this up and then I'm going to move over to my outline, talk about a couple of things there. It's almost 3. I stayed up till 3 a.m. playing No Man's Sky. Oh, knocking on heaven's door. This, you don't get any better than fodder here for song puns. Because he wrote every song that was ever written. Desolation Row. Scott's doing Steal My Soul. 231, Andre, correct. I'm on my Windows PC. I've got TeamViewer running on my Pi, okay, across the room, and haven't reinstalled Picharm. Okay. The hat goes well with your revolvers. And I hope you got a really cool belt for your revolvers. Andre is a cowboy reenactor, folks. So we don't call it post-drama, perpetual drama. Yeah, somebody on here recently came up with a proposal. It was just, the barest inkling of a proposal. And I took the ball and ran with it. with management. And it's basically kind of an expo or a convo convention, something like that, that Total Seminars puts together, a host or whatever. And it dawned on me that the perfect name for it would be Total Con. Oh, you got a Stetson. Yeah, Stetsons are not cheap. It's as good as you get. Are SSIDs bigger in Texas? That's hilarious. No, they're not, but the letters for them are. All right, that gets me caught up. Let's see, I got to get down there. My SSDs keep filling up. Oh, I read that. I had it in my head, SSIDs, because SSIDs are bigger in Texas. Call of Duty updates out of control. That's at 2:35. All right, I'm going to pause messages there and go back to notes here and talk about things that are notey and noteworthy. Did it. If you've got in-depth questions, we did the special. Hey, so remember, any Pi project that we do in here, 90% of them can be done on other distros. Do them in a virtual machine or whatever. I like the Pi. I got a lot of them lying around. And they're just great. They're portable. They're $35. Less if you want to get a zero, more if you want to get more RAM, but you get the idea. So, and there's lots of other single board computers out there that most of this stuff will work on. I threw this note up on Discord. Let me put this up here now. As you may know, if you're a regular here or you've seen the show before, I built a self-hosted web server, which is terrifying because the more I learn and read about vulnerabilities and weaknesses, the more scared I am. But the more I learn, because I am piece by piece, day by day, adding security elements to this thing, but not enough that I'm comfortable yet to leave it run 24 hours a day. But I have started a new product that says every Friday, when I get up in the morning and sit down at this desk right here, I'm going to open it up for access all day until I'm ready to go to bed on Friday night. So we get this web server. It's called pirsquare.zapto.org, pirsquare.zapto.org. And it has on it right now 2 pages. And I'm always revamping them and reworking them to make sure they're more visible and things like that. But on the second page, you'll see a link to it at the bottom of the first page, is complete. The archive of all of the resources that I use here for our project shows. Shows that we do, the interview with Dr. Evan Upton. I don't have an archive for that because I just spent 2 hours with him and Mike interviewing him and listening to his stories. And same thing for just, we did once an open question day, things like that. But everything that's got a project in it or something cool in it, I've archived all of my slides and my outlines and my PDFs and my links and program code and whatever into a zip file. And you can download every single one of those, typos and all in many cases. And then you can use that stuff to study from, to follow along as you watch the archives on the YouTube archives. It's, to my mind, it's just great. And once I get this show all set and prepped before I'm ready to go on the air, it's all done. So I zip it up and put it up, and I will try to stay more than current every day whenever we do a show. By the end of the day, and hopefully before the show even starts, the archive will be available. That's my plan, anywho. Okay, did that. All right, the rest of those slides are for today's production. So coolness. All right, back to notes. All right, a review. Oh, that was loud. I probably blew the sound volume off the board. Sorry about that. All right. Where we've been, where we're going. So last week, we installed a Docker engine, a very popular container system, and then we installed a pre-configured Apache container. We did it twice, and there was a typo on the second one. We were trying to demonstrate how to name the instance when you install a container into the Docker engine. Let me review ever so quickly. When you select an instance that's been pre-created, even if you manually created, same thing. But there are lots and lots and lots of pre-created containers at the Docker hub site. You download it and it runs. And that instance, that container is given a name that's made with two random words: bulbous walrus, riding walruses. I don't know, where do you get the idea? Okay, cool. But if you want to give it a name so that you can actually track it and know what's going on, when you load it, you throw a bunch of command line switches on it. And the one that I copied and pasted, I had it working correctly because I copied and pasted it from the website. Then it failed when I did my demo last week because I copied and pasted it into Windows, and Windows changed the double dash into it into a smart single long dash. So what I had on screen before and whatever said dash name or a really long looking dash name, easy fix, just make it dash dash name, and that fixes last week's problem. You can read that in today's archive. All right, so that's what we did last week. We started containers, we stopped containers, we downloaded, installed containers, and it's a really, really, really easy way to get processes going that are all pre-configured. What are we going to do today? Well, today's Good Friday all over the world. I'll read you my actual notes. We're expecting a low turnout. We don't. We have a normal turnout, so that's great. So I had some powerful projects on my list, and I said, well, in case the turnout is low, I don't want to waste it on 6 people. I want to do it when we've got a normal amount of people. But I did find something that in the last little while that I said, oh, we have to do that. And okay, we did a project that was spread out over 3 weeks in the first 3 weeks of February, and that was building a Raspberry Pi cluster. And the third week was completing it and testing it. And the testing that came with the tutorial left me deeply unsatisfied, because what it was, the way it was written and the way it worked and the code that he selected was the same programming running 5 times simultaneously, doing exactly the same thing on the 5 nodes in the cluster. So what the heck is the benefit of that? There is no benefit to that. And that has bothered me. So as I do my daily work here and as I work in the evenings, prepping shows and things like that, that has just been eating away at me. And I said, there has to be a way to demonstrate some value in having a cluster so that each computer takes on a portion of a task, and therefore 5 computers finish the task almost 5 times faster than one computer doing it one time, or even 5 computers doing the same task each one time. And I finally found one, and I found out what was wrong with what the person who wrote the tutorial presented. So that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to show you a working collaborative cluster. It's a quick thing to do. I'll kill a little bit of time with it, but it's just going to be cool. News, tricks, and traps of the week. Okay, I mentioned the one then. Pi Square is open till 9 p.m. Central Time or so tonight, whenever I go to bed. Visit Pi Square, PiRSquare, PiRSquare.zapto.org. Well, you know what? Scott's probably already posted the link, but I'm going to as well. https:// Copy that, Control C, go to the chat line, PiRSquare web server. Bingo, Wango Tango, posted at current time, 2:44 or so. There was nothing newsworthy in the Linux world or in the Raspberry Pi world this week that I found interesting enough or that I would be excited to share it with you. So moving on. The only other newsy thing was just a bit of personal information that Andre de Goyer did exactly the same thing that I did. I have on my handy dandy little desk here, give or take 13 computers running at any given time. And that means if I want to do a new project, I got to disconnect something because I have 2 8-port switches. Wait a minute, 2 8-port switches is 16 ports. Yeah, and then you lose 2 of them for the connectors that link one to the other. So I lose one here and one here, and I lose one that goes to the long wire up to my house router. So that leaves 16 minus 3 is 13 computers, and I'm out of ports. So I went online this week and found a used 16 port gigabit Netgear switch. And the price was right, just $24 after everything. I said, who can go wrong with that? I usually pay 20 for a new 8 port. Yeah, okay. So it's used, but I can live with that. I plugged it in. Right now I got 8 ports left and an extra 8 port switch laying around in the back if I do need to expand. So coolness. We'll see how long that lasts. If I have more, there's an old engineering adage that says systems expand to fill space available. So I will probably come up with 8 more pies in very short order. If I ever get desperate, I went to a school auction a couple summers ago that got rid of and upgraded all of their networking equipment. I went there specifically because I bought some stuff for the company that was fiber optic oriented, and we needed it for whatever shoot we were doing at the time, Sec Plus or Net Plus, or maybe even A Plus, I don't remember. But while I was bidding on stuff, it was going so low because this school district was so far in the weeds that nobody was willing to drive to pick the stuff up, that I picked up a stack of about 1,000 pounds worth of 48 port gigabit switches. Gave a couple to the company because they're usable, they're great. I threw a whole bunch of them on eBay and got rid of them all but 2 or 3. And so if I ever get desperate, I still got 3 48 port switches. Why don't I just switch to that now? Because they have these 3 industrial fans in them that sound like the 767s I used to fly. Not so good in the house. All right, last of the housekeeping chores, unanswered old questions. Tarun Chadha asked us a couple weeks ago, and I've been kind of getting dribbly-drabbly answers, but I finally have an authoritative answer. Will Pearson Vue vouchers work if the exam is scheduled from India? So we have the answer. It is definitive. We had an answer before, but it's such an old answer that we double-checked it. Kathy Yale, all the credit to her for doing the initial research and the final research on this. Here is the quote from her source at Pearson Vue. You must use a voucher for the country in which you take this exam. That's it. There's no workarounds. So sorry about that. I don't know if there's some countries that are cheaper than others, but you got to use their voucher. They know by the IP address that you're at, what country you're in, and all that good stuff. So that's your answer. Zach Morrill posted a question last week that I didn't even know what it meant, at least the acronym used. I was soundly and quickly corrected by everybody online, so thanks for all that. His question was, Dave, can you explain what actually is an SOC Analyst? And I didn't know the answer. Security Operations Center, I didn't know what that stood for. I thought it was a system on a chip, since that's often what we talk about here, and that's where my mind went. But after the show, I went and looked it up, found some good answers, did a little bit of studying. I posted my answer to him on Discord. Hey, a lot of us hang out on Discord before, during, and after shows. Some people are on there right now talking about things that I've just said. By the way, I only see 10 people who have liked us out of the 20 people that are here right now. Could use some thumbs. So anyways, an SOC Analyst actually has a very interesting job, because it's not what I thought it would be in terms of analyst. The primary job of an SOC Analyst, it's a person who works and is one of the employees of a security operations center, is, ready for this, to handle the crisis, the security crisis, when it happens. That's job number 1. Job number 2 is when there isn't a crisis in progress and they're solving it, then they identify, analyze, investigate, communicate, respond, and report to cybersecurity incidents. Sorry, that's job 1. Job 2, SOC Analysts scan applications to identify potential security threats, again, with the ongoing attacks, and other vulnerability scanning. So they're kind of like in-house pen testers, but a little more continuous. A pen tester says, I've been hired to scan for something during this time period or a list of these somethings. The SOC analyst is in a continuous evaluation process, identifying vulnerabilities and recommending reactions and pre-reactions, fixes to those vulnerabilities. So that's that. Did that. Okay. So the next thing that I've got in my outline is the project. So I'm going to go back and answer some more questions. And then, oh man, this project, this has just had me excited all week long. In fact, so excited that I have to check the progress of the last experiment. It is running much longer than I expected it to. I'm going to have to wind up interrupting it to demo it to you. That sucks, but there it goes. Okay, close that. Yeah, leave it open. I can take it to you later. This, and I don't need that yet. All right, so going back to questions, which we finished up somewhere around 2:35, right? Sorry, looking to catch up where I was. I changed notes. Oh. Oh, that's what happened. Thank you. Left off 2:35. Oh, goodness. I'm looking in the 240s for that. Okay. Balloon drive technology. Reading questions. I'll read these for about 10 minutes and then we'll get started on El Projecto, which again, I am just so excited about. This is a really, 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 really cool project. And I can tell you that if we'd gotten a low turnout, I wouldn't have done it because it's too cool for 6 people. I got a very nice belt with loops and a very nice holster for the breech loader. Smooth belt with holster for cap and ball, both cross draw. Well, cross draw, you. That looks cool, but God love you. All right, I'm seriously about to go back to hard drives. Why? If I was willing to wait on HDD loading times in 06, I should be okay doing it now. No. If you were willing to wait on a buggy in 1888 and you were old and you were still alive, would you say, no, I'll just wait as if I were waiting for a buggy? Time marches on and we take advantage of the technology as it marches on. 237, Thelowit, Raspberry Pi, American Pie, Jester on the sidelines. Oh, goodness. Okay. I get it. I was trying to figure, wait a minute, Bob didn't write that song, but he got referenced in it, so okay. I use hard drive for storage, but M2 as system drive. I also have SSD where I install games, VMs. Okay. I have hard drives in some machines. In laptops, nothing but SSDs. Yes, Andre definitely belongs in Texas, and we look forward to when all this lockdown nonsense is done and we can visit each other in different countries. Good thing I don't have an ego, says Elbow. I'll be right back while I clean soda from my keyboard. Put it in a jar of rice. My life is in the Netherlands. Oh, when you come, the wife and family, we expect them to come too. He's got a straw in his keyboard, Andre. Pours the soda in and... Oh, Elbow's keyboard. Is that one of the new ones you did? A new keyboard for the build you did? Fire Square web server. That's where I posted that. I spilled Jack and Coke all over an Alienware laptop back in college. Man, they were expensive back then. Alienware was that was probably, I don't know when you finished college, Andrew Hutz, but I'm guessing that was before Dell bought them. Reading questions. Passing 244. Andre, depends on the amount of soda. Elbow, not this keyboard. Andre, just 16 ports. You'll be out of ports again soon. You are so right. Yeah, I'm already on the hunt for another 16 port one that I can get for 20 US. I'm on the phone though, Andrew. Cool to see you. Oh, here, Mr. S is cool. Cool to see you from Labs. Thank you. Scott's here. You will have seen him from Labs. Mike isn't here, but you will certainly have seen him in Labs. I spilled water on my MacBook Pro. Fried the function keys. Figured you can change it so those functions only work if you hold functions. So I never needed to repair it. Okay, cool. You know this voice, huh? Yeah, nasal, high, unpleasant. Sort of a minorly worse than dragging nails on a chalkboard. Most of you are too old to have had too young to have had a chalkboard in school and don't know that sound. Alaska is bigger than Texas. Yeah, but they wear mucklucks up there, not cowboy hats. Passing 248. Everybody talking together. Move countries if you want a cheaper voucher. Okay, that's funny. I like that. That's a good reason to move. Just because I want a cheaper voucher for It's Alive. It could only hit the numpad. Super scroll, but I'm getting toward the end. Just a bit more chilly. High 60s here today. Beautiful, bright, and clear. I had to pay a 40 euro VAT tax. Man, VAT tax for an A plus voucher. Ridiculous. Ridiculous. There are some things that VAT should not be assigned to, and vouchers is certainly one in my mind. 500 euros for both. That sounds not far off than what you pay in the US. 278 US retail price for each. And I think ours are somewhere in the 230s, something like that. Guys, should I go to Microcenter today? You should go to Microcenter every day. If I lived closer, I would. Passing 255, 406 euros for Andre. I bought it through eustore.comptia.org. Okay. Thank you, Mr. S. Andre de Goert, I'd go for 24 ports. Yeah, so would I. When you start getting to this higher number of ports, they start making more heat and then they get noisier. So I'd rather stack a pair of 16s, unless you can find a fanless 24. I imagine they're out there, but you guys know me. I'm the world's cheapest human. I negotiate in retail stores. I actually did that when I came back from Saudi. I was so used to negotiating for everything everywhere. I went into a store one time and started negotiating. It's like, well, wait a minute, it doesn't work here. 2011, you cooked your MacBook, your Alienware. I got a buddy. It's a buddy of Scott's as well. We used to work together over at Total. His wife would always buy Alienware laptops. They're great, powerful machines, but she would always set them on a pillow on her lap, and that would clog the vents. And she's killed multiples of them, and he could not convince her to do it otherwise. Even putting a board on top of the pillow and then put the Alienware on top of the board that gives a little clearance. She wouldn't do it. She'd rather kill it. Dave wrote most of the labs, Mr. S, even the ones I narrated. I wrote my share of them. Lots of other people were involved, but thank you, Scott. Yes, Scott, if he comes on at the end of the show, you'll recognize his voice as well. So yeah, we had a really good time recording those. Scott and his family members who are trapped at home right now, working and in college and whatever, they've been working on labs, and you'll recognize later, learn to recognize some of those. I said nothing political today. Always thinking it, but I didn't do it. Andrew advertises for free. Skyrim never dies. Just the players within it. Spy Pie. Hi guys. Hey, Jane Slayer's here. What I miss? Nothing yet. Answering questions and news and tricks and traps of the week. I'm about to start the real project here in just about a minute. Oh, of course, you missed the super secret discount that was only available for 47 seconds, where we gave away one of everything. Sorry, that's gone. Dave, just about. Okay, and Scott answered. Beat me to it. Excuse me. Still on the tail end of just clearing out after my cold of 2 weeks ago. Sadly, it was not the big monster that we're all worried about, so I have no herd immunity yet. Those with local companies, not just at the malls. Yeah. If you go to politics, I'll go religious. No religion, no politics. You know our rules here. Those are but the only two topics that are forbidden. All right, that catches me up on the questions at 2:59. Easy way to remember because we try to start the projects on top of the hour. So, Notepad. Not Notepad, I do this in Word. So today's project is the final completion of the cluster project. And as I said, I was very dissatisfied with the testing that was provided in the tutorial that we used. And I knew it at the time that I wasn't satisfied with it, but I just didn't find a better solution at the time. So I plowed ahead with it and tried to bamboozle a little bit. Was probably a little bit successful, but it's always bothered me. So I'm using today to clear up two pieces of errata. One, the problem with the -- name switch on the Docker command last week. That's done. We covered that a little bit ago. What is that? Oh, that's supposed to be a T. And then this test. And the problem with this test is that it did not divide a workload up across multiple computers in a cluster. So it was just 5 computers doing exactly the same job, took the same amount of time as one computer doing the job. And the only validity that I can see in doing something like that is if you're doing performance comparisons of 2 different computers or differently configured computers at the same time. But even then, that's not a very good thing. So I think about this a little bit every day when I'm working on projects and I need a brain break. Hey, and then without looking for it, one day at the beginning of the week, I got a piece of regular mail notifications that I get regularly from Raspberry Pi Foundation. And they were the ones who had published the tutorial, but they published some additional information in this email notification that led me to find a program that would actually do what I wanted you to see. So let me talk a little bit about that. And we're going to use the prime number primeness checker. So primeness, the characteristic of a number that defines whether or not it is or isn't a prime. And I'm not going to get into what makes a prime number. Everybody knows what a prime number is, right? A number that's only evenly divisible by 1 and itself, which means there's no odd numbers, right? Because all even numbers are divisible by 2. Except that's not true, right? Just at the risk of being mathematical trivia oriented here, 2 is an even number, and it is the only even number that we know of that's prime, because 2 is divisible only by, evenly divisible by 1 and by itself, which is 2. But then when you start getting into 4, 6, and 8 and all that, all those, so we can get rid of all those. So there are not random number calculators out there. That doesn't exist. We don't know enough about, I'm sorry, not random numbers. There are not prime number calculators out there. We don't know enough about prime numbers that we can make a program that will create a prime number, like one that we've never seen before, one that we have seen before. So the only way we can figure out if a number is prime is to check it. And so the way this is usually done is we start with a sequence of numbers. Throw out 1 and 2, start with 3, and increment by 2 so we can do odd numbers, and set a maximum number for our program to do, or a minimum number, or maybe just make it run infinitively, whatever. And then when we start with a number, we pick a number, and then we run it through a series of mathematical tests to determine whether or not that number is or is not a prime. So let me give you a couple of interesting, I think, tidbits about primes. There's not so many that'll be boring if you're not interested in it. Prime number theory, number one feature about it. Prime number theory is at the heart of all, or at least most that we know of, U.S. military, intelligence, and government encryption systems. And therefore, in the U.S., it is illegal to export prime number theory research. Okay, it's a neat little tidbit. Okay, I wrote that in. There are at least 3 different categories of prime numbers. And we categorize them in the way that they are calculated. And the only one that I'm going to want you to care about today, and I don't even need you to care about it, I'm just telling you about it, is called, I'm not sure how to pronounce this, a Mersenne, M-E-R-S-E-N-N-E, could be Mersenne, but I'm going to go Mersenne prime. And a Mersenne prime is a number that's always this is what makes it a Mersenne prime, is 2 raised to some power minus 1. The last 17 or so of the largest prime numbers that have been discovered, again, we don't calculate them, we discover them, have all been Mersenne primes. Let me show you something, because I know you are now curious about the largest prime number ever yet determined. And there it is. It was discovered in December of last year. It's 2 raised to the 82,589,933rd power minus 1. And if you actually generate that thing and have it printed out somewhere on a screen, it's got 24.8 million digits in it. So that's a heck of a number, huh? When I show you what's involved in us checking primes, you'll just be knocked out. That one was calculated, by the way, by distributed computing process. The code to check for a number, if it's prime, is actually very little code, about 17 lines of Python code. And so what they do is they cluster compute in the same way that we used to do the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, or the way we do fold today. You can volunteer your computer to work in the background and get a little piece of the code and work on a number for a while and set it up. So one person get the credit for this thing. His computer was one of the donated time computing, and it says, bingo, that one's a Mersenne prime, and he gets the credit for it. That's kind of cool. All right, that's everything that I want to talk about primes. So let's talk about the test that we did with the previous one. I've kind of done it. We'll talk about the old test, and then we'll talk about what we could have done to the old test to fix it, or the better solution, what we have done to do in today's project. So we did our cluster project in the first 3 Fridays of February, February 5th, February 12th, February 19th. If you feel the need to go back and review it, or if you're watching this on the archive and you want to go see how we did it, by all means. On the 3rd episode, we used a Python script called prime.py, py, and it was the one that the tutorial said to use. And when you do a cluster, what you have to do is get a copy of the program that's going to run on each of the nodes in the cluster. And then we have a master node, or a scheduler node, or a primary node, whatever is politically correct and safe. And it sends a message to all those other stations and says, okay, start running that program and send me your results. And here's some terms that describe that we didn't use at the time. I thought you might find them interesting. There's a term called MPI scatter. It's a one-to-many process in which the scheduler issues code and or commands to the various compute nodes. MPI scatter. It's a process in the message passing interface protocol. And then there's the opposite, MPI gather. MPI gather is when the primary controller machine receives, calls for, gathers, however that works in the program, all of the resulting data, and as necessary puts it together. And then there's another command that we're not going to get into because we didn't use in this project, called MPI all gather. MPI scatter is one to many. Scheduler sends out commands and data to all of the nodes. MPI gather is many to one. They all send their results back to the scheduler. And then the third process, all gather, is a many to many function. This one says, I'm done with it. I got to send some data here. I got to send some data to that node, and sometimes it's the same data and sometimes it's not. And these nodes are doing the same thing. So that's way more beyond what we wanted to do here. If you are interested in reading and understanding a little bit more about that, you could go to this very website. I think I can do, stop it, cancel that, highlight this, pointer. No, I don't want to do that. Goodness, what are you doing there? All right, I'm going to put a link right now in the chat, and then I'm going to show you what I just put the link for in. Bam. All right, now we can share this. All right, so here's a link that I just put in the thing. If you're not, you could be watching this in real time and that part of the YouTube chat has gone off screen and you can't get back to it. There's only a certain amount of time that it keeps track of. But this, you could do a pause and go to mpitutorial.com, whack tutorials, whack MPI scatter, gather, and all gather, each separated by a dash. And you could learn about scatter and gather and all gather. Cool, huh? Excuse me. Okay, so the problem with the prime.py script that they used in there is that it is identical on all the machines. It starts at number 3, increments by 2 for odd numbers, and checks for primeness up to the maximum value that we submit to the program. Might do 1,000 primes or 10,000 or 100,000 or whatever it is. So while node 0 is doing that, node 1 is doing exactly the same thing, as is node 2 and so forth. And so they all take exactly the same amount of time, and they're not helping each other out. They're not collaborating. They're not cooperating. So what we've got to do is change that program or get a different kind of a program that says, hey, I'll take odd numbers in increments of 5 starting at 3. And the next node says, cool, I'll take increments of 5 starting at 7, and you get the idea. So they're each going to work a different chunk, a different 1/3 or 1/5 or however many nodes you have. So let me show you something. Boot, that's kind of cool. It's not you. There we go. I know you're not seeing it yet. That's okay. You will. Okay, so this is what it would look like if we said, you know what, let's just assign a different range of numbers, not increments, or to each node in a 5-node cluster. So we'll say this node, he's going to do all the odd numbers from 3 to 99,999. And this guy will start 100,001 to just shy of 200,000 and so forth. That seems like a pretty good idea, but not when it comes to prime numbers. The problem with prime numbers is the bigger the number, the longer that it takes to test for primeness. So this guy is going to get done way, way faster than even the second guy. Third guy is going to take a lot slower, a lot longer than this guy, and longer and longer. So we're not done until the last guy gets done, and he's doing all the hard work and he takes forever. So that's not a great solution. So I want a better solution. And here's what we'll do. We'll either modify the Python script program to say, okay, I'll start at number 3, do increments of 5. Now I forgot to take out the even numbers here when I made this at 1:30 this morning. So skip even numbers, of course. So he might do 3 and 9 and whatever. This guy, same range, except each number is 1 higher, 2 higher, 3 higher, 4 higher. So now I've got this guy starting out doing small numbers and he gets done very quickly. Oh, so does this guy and this guy and this guy. And then as they build toward the bigger numbers, they still all take the same amount of time relative to each other. So, all right, I could do that. There's a problem with that. That means I have to go hard code and change every script on every node in my system. Now, in 5 nodes, that's not such a big deal. But there's another problem, and that is the scheduler needs to know that all of the programs on the compute nodes are running the exact same program. And they're not, because we have built into the code different starting points and different endpoints and different values on all the interims. So that's actually not a good solution in an MPI-based Beowulf cluster. So here's a possible solution that does work. We could create a configuration file for each different machine that's different and has the correct range of stuff that we want that node to compute. And then built into the program will be a call to this data file that's got this, or this config file, whatever you want to call it, that's got this range in there. That works. That's an okay solution. The problem with it is it's not expandable. If I have to expand, I got to add a new node to the game, add a program, and create a new custom data file, new custom config file. And that can be a real pain if we're talking about a lot of expansion. So the way to do this, the singular bestest way, is to write a program that works directly with the clustering system, the MPICH program that says, how many nodes are there? What are we doing? And I will divide up the workload as I figure out which cluster, which node number I am. So I will work directly with you. And that way we can all have the same identical code. We'll self-customize our code as we run it to deal with the fact that there are 3 nodes or 5 nodes or 100 nodes or whatever. Well, that's the email that I basically got. Here's a program that does that. It's a Python script. It's called prime.py. So if I use it, I'm going to overwrite my old prime.py, and I don't really need that one, but I'm a hoarder. I hate getting rid of good and interesting code. Yeah, okay. Sorry, I was looking for a next resource that I was going to show you. But that's what we did. So I found this prime.py code. And by the way, I have that in the archive zip that you want to download. So you'll be able to have it rather than hunt for it. And I've got a notation in there on where you can go hunt for it yourself. Here, let me bring it up. Yeah, there it is. So here's where to get this Python script called prime.py. It's over on GitHub at Mr. PJ Evans, blah, 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 blah. How about I put that in, stop it. Okay, seen enough of that. I'm going to put it on the YouTube feed. But again, just download my archive from the pyrsquare.zapto.org computer. And you'll have the real code in and of yourself. So let me see if I've got this on my list to show you. Nah, thought about doing it. I never did it, but I was going to show you the actual code from the original prime.py with its 17 lines, or the code from the new Pine script, which isn't very big. It's only about 62 or 63 lines of code, and that includes spaces. And again, the whole point of that thing is it works with the multiprocessing cluster system. And that's just magical. So it can automatically accommodate for how many nodes are involved in the cluster and take an even percentage of the work. All right, reading my notes here. Just for presentation. Okay, so I started this on a Wednesday night. And I started out by doing 3 experiments with a single computer, just to see how long it would take a single computer to calculate a certain range of pies. And I got it listed here. I'm going to bring up a slide. And see if we can make sense out of it. Because it's easy to get bogged down in numbers. Okay, so this is my first experiment. I said, I would like you to run the new prime.py program. I renamed all the old prime.py scripts to prime01. And then I copied this new one, this collaborative one, up into all the hosts. It's the only change I had to make. And then I said, run under the multiprocessing software on a single node. Don't involve the other compute nodes. This Python Py script up to a maximum value of 1,000. And so it summarized it for me. It said, okay, I'll find all the primes up to 1,000. I'll use one node. And the total time to accomplish that was 0.14 seconds. Pretty quick. Found 168 primes in the range of 1 to 1,000. 1,000 wasn't one of them. So then I said, all right, if I can accomplish 1,000 checks in 0.14 seconds, 100,000 checks should take 100 times longer, about 140 seconds, right? Well, that was because at the time I didn't know the code they were using, and that it takes longer to calculate, to check big numbers than it does small numbers. So that's what I did. Next, same machine. I said, all right, run the same test again, but this time instead of checking the first 1,000 numbers for primeness, check the first 100,000 numbers for primeness. Okay, I'll find all the primes up to the value of 100,000. I'll use one node, and it took 567 seconds, roughly, just shy of 6 minutes, right? And it discovered just shy of 10,000 hosts or prime numbers. Now, of course, I did this again later on multiples. In fact, here's what we did. We said, let's do this one again, except this time we'll use all 5 hosts that I have in my cluster. And I used the example that they used in the new tutorial, -- host, and then a list of the IP addresses of all my compute nodes. I could have put these all in a file and used a switch here that said use the file and read the values out of that, but I wanted to follow their example. So do the same test that we did here with one node, and that took 10 minutes, 600 seconds, roughly. Spread it across 5 nodes. Okay, I'll find all the primes up to 100,000. I'll use 5 nodes, and it came up with just over 2 minutes. So 10 minutes, a little shy of 10 minutes, 2 minutes, a little over 2 minutes. So it kind of divided the load up evenly by about a fifth. There's some overhead because of the multiprocessing. But how cool is that? Do the same job with 5 computers in 1/5, 1/4, somewhere in between there, the time that it takes one computer to do the job. And that was it. So I said, all right, I got to carry this one step further. So at 10 o'clock on Thursday morning, I said, we got to find all the primes on one computer up to 1 million. Okay, I'll use one node check all of primeness up to 1,000,000, and it came up with 53,401 seconds, which is 14 hours, 50 minutes, and 1 second. And it found 80,000 primes. There it is, 14, 50, and 1 second. And so what I'm doing right now, I started it this morning. I said, all right, now let's do the same test, check all the primes up to 1,000,000 and divide it across 5 hosts. And it's still going because I started it just a couple hours ago. So I'm going to envision that if that one took 14 hours, we're working with much bigger numbers here. It's not going to be 1/5 of the time. We may be talking about half the time by the time it's done. I may be looking at 7 or 8 hours. But that's the whole point of the game. I guess I can share this with you. I am sharing this with you. I'm sharing something with you. Oh yeah, stop that share. Let me show you this one. So this is what's going on. This is my scheduler host. This is when I ran it last night or yesterday morning at 10 o'clock in the morning. I think it ran till around 1:30 in the morning, something like that, 2:30, whatever it was. And there was the report, the 53,000 seconds and the count. And then this morning, I fired up again somewhere around 10 o'clock again, hoping that 4 hours would be done. But it's still cranking away, and it just sits there with that blank script. So let me show you this so you can see that it's actually doing some work. This one's a really cool one to me. This is HTOP. It shows me all of the processes that are running in my computer. This is a 4-core computer, core number 1, 2, 3, and 4. And you can see Python running the prime.py script on this computer is using about 101, 103% of the CPU time. So if I look over here, I see, okay, well, that's devoted to core number 4. I didn't set this up to do multi-core. I will in a future experiment, and I'll report to you the results. But I think what's really interesting about this is I took a similar screenshot. Oh, by the way, how long has this thing been running? Oh, this thing says it's been running 14 hours. What if I typoed something? I don't know. Stop share, get rid of that. Let me show you these other 2 screenshots. Share. Not the lady who sings. Okay, we'll zoom this up a little bit. So this is the screenshot of when I ran this test on a single computer. And I did this screenshot about 1 hour into processing. And notice that it assigned the job to core number 1. I don't know why. I don't know if it's because that was the most available one or what the other rationale was, because here's a screenshot of the same process not long after I started it. And this is the same computer and the same process that you saw, but now it assigned it to core 4. So I don't know what the assignment algorithm to that is. Something I may research, something I may not care about. Anything else on there worth checking? No. All right. I think that finishes that. Check the notes because I think we're pretty well wound up here. The secret, the answer, use code that works collaboratively. It's designed to work collaboratively. And so it will be the one responsible for working with MPI to split up the load across all of the compute nodes. So that's what I did. I renamed all of the old prime.py to prime01.py. I copied in the new prime.py with its slightly bigger code, again, from 17 lines or so to 62 lines or so, whatever it is. And all that additional code is just used to talk to each other. Okay, checking notes, covered all this, did it all from my head. It didn't miss anything. Cool, 5:30, 3:30, just about where I wanted to be. I showed that, did that. Okay, you saw the results, and yeah, that's it. So that completes what I wanted to show you for the day. Let me just finish up my outline notes, and then we'll go back to questions, and then we'll wind things up when we run out of questions. So next week, I have not picked a topic. I have a bunch on my list. There are some topics that I haven't started researching yet, and that will take longer than a week to learn about and present. And in particular, I'm talking about Kubernetes. I got a couple ideas on how to do, okay, thank you, on how to do Kubernetes on a single machine, which is kind of a waste, or doing Kubernetes across the cluster. But that's going to be a big learning curve. I imagine it's going to take me 3 or 4 weeks of nights to learn enough to make it work and explain it. One of the things I'm thinking about for next week is a product called Box 86. Box 86 is an emulator that runs on an ARM Linux box that can run x86 AMD or Intel Linux code. I'm thinking if we do that now, later on, I have a project that's designed to run on x86 Linux and I want to run it on a Pi. We'll have that background under our belt. So that's one that I'm strongly thinking about. I haven't learned much about it, but it looks pretty easy. Other possibilities, let's see, OpenHAB, Cosmic Pi. I will bet you that I'm going to go with this Box 86 thing. So it's not a virtual machine. It's an emulator, but it allows us to run programs that weren't designed to run on ARM-based Linux. Mike, normal show on Monday. He hasn't announced anything special. You never know. He may come up with something. So that, take care of that. And back then to the YouTube feed for questions. Let me close this thing out. Save some CPU cycles. Shrink you. I've done everything on you. And I got a note that says there's a real question starting at 3:08. So quick skim from 2:59 to 3. Oh man, I don't get to do a quick skim. It's super scrolled all the way to the end. All right, there was a lot of chatting going on from 2:59 to there, but nothing for me. Dave is the world's cheapest human. Are you threatening me? You know, okay, I got a rep. It's fine. I'm cheap. Works for me. I have lots of toys. Tons of Dylan buns. Yeah, I see. I'll just head straight to 3:08 and take your word for it. 3:08. They found that because of COVID. Could apply. Okay, it looks like it's from Andrew. At 3:08, Andrew Hutz. Could a Pi cluster be a good tool for running password crackers for research purposes? No, not really. They just don't have the CPU horsepower to pull that off. When we start talking about about pass crackers, we're thinking about really high-end, one of 3 categories. We're talking about super processors, Xeons, and upper-end processors that you find in supercomputers. If you want to scale down a little bit, high-end Intel and AMD processors. But the processors of choice these days are the processors built onto graphics card, GPUs. They are so math intensive, they're not like CPUs that are general purpose computers. And, you know, take an SOC on a Raspberry Pi, that's not just a CPU, it's a GPU and its controller and its. So it's got all that superfluous stuff that would detract from password cracking. You're better off with a slightly older GPU. There's lots of code out there, and they can be stacked up just like you stack them up in a cyber currency miners. so that they work collaboratively. But Pi for password cracking, nah, I don't see it. Oh, by the way, there was another nice question, Scott. There was another question that I think I skipped that Scott posted a while back. Yeah, way back around 208 when we first started the show. How would you use a Raspberry Pi for Microsoft Studies? So, not being a Microsoft certification guru, I don't know what specific objectives that it would directly relate to, but I'm sure that built within Microsoft's certifications and processes and programs, they need to reach out to other types of computers. They need to use their FTP and their SCPs and all kinds of other access to different types of servers. And so that's where offhand, I think the Raspberry Pi comes in. And there's nothing directly on point that I know of, but again, it's only because I don't know the objectives at the moment. Sorry about that. By the way, you can build a domain with it. Let's see. Read more questions. Passing 310. Everybody's going to list off their password cracking. The only password crackers I know are Aircrack NG. Mike knows a few more. There's crackers built within Kali. Oh, it likes it. New choice. Reading questions. Passing 312. Jane Slayer, I was looking for friends, but all I found were primates. That's a good pun. I like that. Questions started back at 3:30. Okay. I'm going to skim these real quickly and get up to questions that are happening at 3:30. It's what you get for trying to get to heaven. Well, you're knocking on heaven's door. Imagine trying to get to heaven instead of working on cracking the code to upload your consciousness to a machine. Man, you guys are metaphysical. Scroll and scanning. If your cluster is very lucky, do you have cluster luck? That was risky, man. That was risky. I know that some of you do not know the titles of the Dylan songs that you're using. You're just looking up Dylan song titles and using them. Because I know his catalog very, very well. And there's a couple lines and titles here that I don't recognize. Sledgehammer. Passing 325. You answered my question. Get another 50 hosts. Darn right. That's what I'm thinking about doing with that 8-port switch that I just retired, is building another cluster, but basically to stick it on eBay. I just have too many Pi 3s and I'm never going to use them all. So maybe build something that's got some value for somebody else. 26 passing, and in the spirit of Linus, drop a by a few times after and add the RGB. 329, 330. Scott Jernigan, I'd want to program my own RGB. Okay, first question, back into the norm. 330, Jane Slayer. To me, if you were to tell a complete newbie where to start with Python, where would that be? With a beginner's Python course. Simple. I mean, if you want to self-learn, but learning is more quick and more effective when you're being taught by a professional who knows how to teach and who knows the product. So myself and a bunch of other folks who are regulars here and on Discord went to one of the sales a few months ago on Udemy. By the way, there's a sale going on today that I think today is the last day. Maybe yesterday was the last day, but there'll always be another one. And I'm in a wonderful Python course that's very simple. It's designed for beginners to intermediate, or take you to intermediate. As I've run across more and more Python code, there's a lot of Python out there, and you can, to really understand the subtleties, you need to learn expertise. But I'm able to understand all the Python code that I run across for these labs. So that's what I would recommend. Find a nice beginner course on, if you're a book type or if your friend is a book type, go book. If you like the video, there's lots of classes on Udemy. Catch them when they're on sale. Pay full price when they're not, or pay full price on Lynda when they're not on sale. Maybe other people have other ideas. University extension and high schools are teaching them now as part of the class. I never did understand why they named the lights on a PC after former Ruth Gator Binsberg. I think it's Gator. Scrolled. I was there. Okay, I'm all right. Andrew Hutz at 331. Have you done any projects in the Q&A involving sensors that could be used ultimately to make a home weather research station? Yes, I have. And I pulled up my handy dandy document full of Q&A stuffs. So I will give you the answer, and yeah, there it is. On November 6th of 2020, we did an episode called Meet the Sense Hat. So Sense Hat's got all kinds of temperature and humidity and similar sensors like that. It's great for a weather station. So check that out, 11/6. I'll put the title of it up. I can't come up with the URLs as fast as Scott does. He amazes me how these do this. I'm working on a way to come up with them very quickly. But there's the title at the current time, 3:41 in the YouTube chat feed. And then all you got to do is go to youtube.com/user/total seminars channel, all one word. And that's the archive of everything in there. And they're all organized in date order. Tree third. Okay, that was that. Sorry, I go post in there and then I got to go back and refind where I was. There it is. So we're at 331 answering Andrew's question, barometric pressure temp. Yeah, it's all built into the Sense Hat. And if you don't have a Sense Hat, that's cool. They're not expensive, but they're not cheap, $35, something like that. You see them sometimes for 25. There's an emulator for one built into Raspberry Pi OS. So you can practice programming it, learning how to use it, and have the code all written and ready to go. When you go and buy it, you plug it in and it's working. You've already coded it. That's marvelously cool. Passing 334 makes sense. I want mine cyber currency so bad, but it seems so hard. Yeah. No matter how valuable it gets, it's still almost never valuable enough that you can make profit mining it, because each partial Bitcoin or whatever you're doing is worth so much that you can only mine smaller and smaller increments as time goes by. 336, Andre de Goyert, can you do a Pi Day about home automation? Absolutely. I have two on the list that I'm sorting through. One is called something Hab. Let me look at my list of futures. Open Hab. And I ran across another one just this week, and I don't have the title memorized, but yes, I will do that. Right now it's on the schedule for May 7th. You know how my schedule goes. I may do one sooner, may do one later, but let's say safely that'll be done by summer and hopefully much sooner. Yeah, Tullywood turned me on to that. It's very, very interesting. Super scroll. There we go. I got it back right away. Thanks, Andrew. Of course, we're looking up Dylan songs titles. Man, you got to know Dylan. Goodness gracious. My sister-in-law and us, a bunch of us went. She's Dr. sister-in-law and married to Dr. brother-in-law. So they got the VIP tickets with the backstage while we were, just stuck out in the cheap seats. And they went backstage to do the meet and greet. and he blew everybody off. Apparently that's a regular thing. You're taking a gamble if you get backstage tickets for Dylan. Reading questions, Tree 40. It's like 50 or 60 hours of content. Yeah. Yeah, Mahalik is the guy that we took our class from. I'll dig his name and the course title up and stick it in Discord when we get done here. By the way, when I get done here, give or take 4 o'clock in 15 minutes, it takes me about 15 minutes to put my life back together here, and then I'll be on Discord. But please go sooner. Start meeting and greeting. Meet the Sense Hat. Hey, I'm about caught up. Goodness gracious. This is serious. The cool stuff I encountered since I became a tech. Thanks, man. I think so too. Yeah, Tulawit likes OpenHab. Now I got to look at the, no, I'm not going to look for the other one. Tulawit turned you on. Well, it's better than him turning on me, right? What happened to Tulawit? I don't know. He turned on me. There's a new message here that says, okay, good. Well, I am caught up on questions. We got about 15 minutes left. Let me throw up the goodie contact information and stuff like that again. Which means you got to go to here and click this and snap that, and touch this and grope that, and there it is. So we're at the end of the thing. If you've got any more questions, let's get them in now in the next 5-10 minutes. Give me a nice long one I can work on and kill 10 minutes on and make a snippet out of. But again, if you're not, if you want to talk to us later, you can catch them live on Discord. And you can catch me live on Discord just about any time of the day. If you do an @DaveRush, it'll wonk at me. I'll hear it in the background, and I'll pop right over and answer, or we'll start a chat session or whatever. But that's not possible. You just want to send a long question that's got links and all that good stuff in there. Send it to my email, daver@totalsem.com. Send Scott an email, scottj@totalsem.com. Send Mike an email, michaelm@totalsem.com. You can use my personal email if you like, drushtx@yahoo. You get the idea. So I'm not going to post it any longer. We're easy to find. Hey, right, Mike, man, if you got a question, especially anything CompTIA oriented or job hunting oriented, an experience job hunting interview, send that to Mike. He wants that information. He wants to talk to you about it, and he wants to share it with others. So that would really be great if you get that opportunity. Oop. And a reminder on the weekly specials. And good news. Thank you. I see you, Scott. Scott has joined the fray. Are we fraying?
We're fraying.
I'm praying. So specials for this week, 50% off on CompTIA Total Tester bundles. That's practice tests, sims, and videos all bundled together. You get 50% of. They're all pre-bundled. You don't have to bundle them. And use this code when you check out, 032921. That's Monday's date. You go do all this nonsense at www.totalsem.com. It's good through this Sunday. Do it sooner so somebody doesn't have to explain what time, because I don't know. And with that, the great Scott Jernigan has joined us.
Hey, Dave. Good
You're
show.
looking all spiffy and clean.
I'm very clean now. Thank you.
We can take you places.
Didn't bother to shave, but that's okay.
All right, your camera's fuzzy. No, it's not. And by the way, mine looks much sharper this week. I never know. It's got to be the lighting, just because it's always a little different lighting in here.
I think it's the Dylan shirt, actually. Just,
So, what do you got going on? I mean, total seminars wise and
okay.
Honeydews.
I can talk about. What can I talk about? I can talk. Okay, so Security Plus, the 601 book is finished. Mike is actually in the trenches doing the video series finally. Because we've struggled to get back in the studio to try and do videos. I mean, nobody wants to hang out together because nobody has their vaccinations and all that stuff. But we're working out some details, and Mike is starting to put together the 601 video course. So hopefully that should come up I'm not going to say a day.
Any day now. Huh?
Any day now, yeah. But we're working through the outline and working through the video shoot. So that's coming. That's in the works.
Nice.
As
He
Dave mentioned
on
at the
his
beginning of the
Wednesday
show.
show, sorry to interrupt. He mentioned on his Wednesday show that he's going to collaborate with Chance.
So we have a co-author, a subject matter expert, Dan LeChance, who's out of Newfoundland, however you say that in Canadian. We in America we call it Newfoundland, so whatever, however you pronounce it. Who's a very accomplished security author, many books, and a major presenter, Dan LeChance, and a funny Canadian guy. And so he's going to be collaborating with Mike on the Security Plus 601 video series, which is cool. The logistical question about that is the Canadian government is like, yeah, you can go to America, but you can't come back. So he's kind of working through some of these details as we're getting our vaccinations and doing all that stuff. And that project is happening. As Dave mentioned at the beginning of the show, the next edition of Network Plus that I can't talk about.
Looms.
I can't say the details about yet because it's not public, but Mike and I have worked through the outline for the next book and for the next video series, and it's gonna rock. So if you're getting ready to study for Network Plus, the new one's going to be very cool, and that's as much as I can say. Wow.
For now. Yep. Yeah, I mean, we don't even have an announcement from CompTIA on when the old one's going to be retired, so this is way out.
Right. And the other thing that's already on the radar is the update to CompTIA A+, which is coming sometime perhaps towards the end of fall in this year. Again, no firm dates. This one I'm not even under NDA because I don't have any objectives. So
yeah.
But looking forward to that one as well. That all this stuff is just rolling right down the pipe.
Yeah, I'm on the list of precursor objectives for A+, and I haven't received anything yet. So we know based on timeline when it should happen, but there have been no official moves by anybody yet.
Right. Somebody posted a definitive feed to me the other day about the 1100 series A+, and I'm like, no.
I saw that. I immediately researched it and said, somebody's making that's April Fool's, man.
Yeah, right. Doesn't exist yet. Doesn't exist. So did anybody pull any great April Fool's joke on you yesterday?
No, I'm the only one who celebrates it. I pull it on everybody, and you saw the one that I pulled. I've had that in my pocket for 3 years. I have an awesome script that's been written and ready to go to do a CompTIA B+ certification, but you cannot get in studio time because we do real things in there, and they just will not give me the personnel or the equipment or the space to do this. So yesterday I said, fine, if I can't get this thing done, I should just shoot it at home. Then I'm writing a fictitious press release from CompTIA.
So, okay, all right, hold on. Because I just got an email from CompTIA about their B+ certification. And it's all about not tech, but best business practices.
Huh. I did not see or get that. I wrote my own.
I'm so making that up.
Hey, quick question popped up here, Andrew Hutz.
Yep.
So 347 said, I see there's a hat for making a little cluster of Pi zeros. What do you think? Haven't seen it, not aware of it. A hat for a cluster. That wouldn't be a hat. That would be a base, a motherboard, something like that. So yeah, sure. If you just want, the whole point of doing a cluster is it's the same. If you're using Raspberries, if you're using supercomputers, if you're using any bunch of other Linux machines. If you want to play this on a Windows machine, you're going to do it in Linux, in VMs. But the process, step by step, is the same for all of them. They might use slightly different codes and slightly different configuration files, but you build this and then you make a template of it. And then you use that template and you one by one make all these things. And then you customize all these things. And when you're all done, the first one that you made the template on needs a little more customization and you got a cluster. So the hardware makes no difference. You're going to do the same things whether you plug them all into a daughter boards into a motherboard or separate standalone machines. So I'm not familiar with that hat. If you want to learn cluster computing, a bunch of zeros is a great way to go, 2 or 3 of them. You don't need a hat for it. You don't need a daughter board. You can just run them standalone next to each other in little cases. And I like them because they don't suck much power. Mike doesn't reply. That is patent. I'm going to disagree with you, Jane Slayer. If you have sent him a message and not gotten a response, it is not because he's ignoring you or not replying to you. He either lost it or something along those lines. So if you send him a message and you didn't get a response, send it again and also include as a CC or recipients Scott and myself, and we will follow up and either answer ourselves or remind Mike that he has a question for you, that you have a question.
As Mike has pointed out multiple times on the feed, he gets hundreds of emails a day.
Right.
So he's a little inundated. And if he missed one from you, especially because if it's not Jane Slayer, so he wouldn't recognize the name, he might just not see it. And
right.
Yeah.
So just send it to all of us. We will make sure it gets answered.
Yep. Absolutely. Mike totally loves answering emails and talking to students and such. So yeah, he wouldn't miss that, not on purpose.
Right, Mr. SU. So here's the other voice from many of the labs, and you can see behind Scott's head his microphone pop filter, which he uses, him and family members and whoever else he invites. He holds weekly large gatherings at his home and then pulls people aside and does voice work with them. It's amazing. The Houston Health Department is typically parked out front of his house on weekends just to try to turn people away, but they won't go away. So
okay, so the microphone is actually set up for my weekly jam session with one of my bands, but we do it virtually, of course, through the one software that we found that seems to enable us to collaborate real time and not sound like hell, right, with the lag, and that's called Jam Kazam. So cool. Yeah, it's still not perfect. It's quirky. It was written by musicians, not programmers. So it's kind of like a lot of the things that you think a program is going to do. It's like, no, click over there, not where you would click. But anyway, it's called Jam Kazam. It has a metronome built in. You can do live recordings in real time. And with some practice, they don't, can I say they don't suck? My feed.
You got the suck knob turned down, huh?
Yeah. So, but yeah, that's what that's set up for.
That's cool.
Yeah.
It's funny because I saw another project that was just the opposite. It was totally done by programmers and not by users of the product in the field. And almost everybody has probably seen this. And if not, go do a YouTube search for the first Airbus test flight. Their fly-by-wire machine was totally programmed by programmers, and there were no pilots involved. And so that thing it took off, it flew, it went up and did circles, and it came back in for a landing, and it would not go below treetop height. So it rolled over the runway at 50 feet, and at the end of the runway were the trees that were higher than 50 feet. And
wow.
Hey, we got 30 seconds left.
Oh, we do.
Yeah, wishing you a happy holiday weekend. We're on our 3-day holiday. Today is Good Friday, and for much of the world, Sunday is Easter Sunday. We'll be celebrating traditionally with the roasting of the hamsters. Love that stuff. Maybe not. We hope all you who celebrate Easter have a great weekend. If you celebrate Easter, have a great anesthetic weekend. Stay safe. Let's get through this damned pandemic. Yes, I said damned, and I'll do it again.
Yeah, no, I'm really over this pandemic, which I imagine everyone else is too. So
yes.
Let's get through this together and be stronger on the other side.
All right, let's wind this thing up. Everybody have a good weekend. Good night.
And now the awkward stare.
And it's gone. It's ended.